What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the $10 Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack has soaked up all of his, or wow, Jack has soaked up all of his tears from yesterday. Rory McIlroy, Masters win. I mean, thoughts, Jack? I'm sure you got a lot going on in terms of what's going through your mind right now for that.
Oh, I teared up 1,000%. If you didn't, or at least didn't feel the emotion of what happened, you're just a loser. I should say robot, but you're just not. You're lying to yourself. That was the second best Masters I've ever watched. In terms of a moment, obviously we'll always go down to 19 for Tiger, and I'm biased, but that was top 5 greatest sports moments of all time, regardless if you're a golfer or not. This was a better start to finish round than the 19 Masters. 19 Masters was traditionally actually kind of boring. This one, it was up and down from 2:01 when the broadcast came on to the end. It was incredible. Career Grand Slam, overcome so many things. What are they going to say now? It's awesome.
The storyline all day on Sunday kept just rotating through based on what was happening too. I think that was part of the reason why it was such a great Masters, is because the storylines just kept changing, where it was like, this is going to happen and that's going to cause that issue, and this is going to happen and that's going to cause that issue. Did Rory give it away on 18 because he didn't make the par putt and he had to go to a playoff? And then it just kept turning around to another storyline. So they had they almost had an overabundance at that point of storylines where it could have caused more headaches.
And I always say it's like sports in general are always, regardless if it's golf, basketball, baseball, you name it, it's boring when it's a blowout. And Rory, when he was leading by 4 shots, I'm like, no. I mean, I wanted Rory for the record.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. And then 4 minutes later, he's down 2. I don't know what happened. It was awesome. He hit one of the greatest and one of the worst shots I've ever seen in a half-hour stretch.
The 7-iron on 15 from 220, where he shaped it around the tree, drew it into the left, and hit it to 6 feet, and then missed the eagle putt, and then made the birdie.
Everybody missed that eagle putt the whole day if you were on the right side of that, though.
Yeah, well, nevertheless, it made me laugh because he hit a ridiculous shot to get to 6 feet and then 2-putted for birdie still. But that for me, I kind of sat there and was like, holy crap, that was an insane shot. That was the one that stood out for me. Outside, obviously, of Rory winning, was there anything else that stood out to you this week?
I will say I wasn't rooting against Justin Rose, although I was in the playoff.
Oh, I was. I have no worries about saying that.
Bridesmaid, once again, I feel bad for that guy. I know he's not hanging his head. Let me say, obviously he's hanging his head. He was in a playoff for the frickin' green jacket, which is the pinnacle of our sport. I have felt bad for him because, for a lot of casual golfers or for people that were turning in for the Masters for the first or second time, he's led after round 1 half a dozen times almost. It was 4 or 5 times. And this is as close as he's gotten in a long time, and he just can't capitalize. Him to shoot 66 and for Rory to shoot 1 over, you don't obviously, you want to win that way, but he's bridesmaid at the Open, bridesmaid here, never the bride, and I hope he gets one, but not the Masters when you have guys like Rory. I will say I was gutted for Bryson. I thought he handled himself poorly at the end, but you can tell how much it meant to him, and regardless of how you feel, I know I joined some work meetings today, and people are like, oh, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen him. Regardless of how you feel about him, he had the same dream as Rory, and he had an opportunity to get it just the same, and he held it, and he was on top of the world for 20 minutes, and then at the bottom of it 20 minutes later, and I feel for the kid, but he'll be back.
I do get a kick out of the fact that I have coworkers that are not golf fans at all. They really don't watch sports. That this morning messaged me on Teams or on Slack or whatever it was and was like, that was an awesome sporting event yesterday at the Masters. I saw shout out Rory. Love that he won. And then there's the amount of people that don't follow golf at all that were like, oh my God, I didn't know he was going through family problems right now. And I'm like, yeah, no, all that stuff sequences is. So whatever the reason is, the Masters brings out all of the golf fans and everybody, even if they only watch once a year. But no, I do feel bad for Rose. He finished second in, I want to say 2015 behind Spieth. He lost by a couple shots that year. Then he lost in a playoff in 2017 to Sergio. Was Sergio 17?
Yes.
Okay. And then obviously lost again in the playoff yesterday to Rory. So he's gotten so close so many times that it is unfortunate. Call it a gut feeling. He'll probably contend again for another Masters. Really, you don't think he could?
I don't think so.
I think he's got another run in him. I don't know if it's a second place. Let me be clear on that. But I could easily see a top 10 finish comfortably.
Well, that's different than a second.
Top 6. I could maybe see it. You can even convince me of a top 5. And I could see that coming out of Rosie. And at that point there, you're contending. If you're top 5, top 10, you're contending, in my opinion. I guess it depends on how many shots out of the lead you are. If you're like 8 shots in 6th place, then that's a little different. But
yeah, I mean, it, like, to your point, the world was watching. It was awesome. CBS had a wet dream on what their coverage was. And I mean, my girlfriend had never watched a single hole, well, like 3 holes of golf in her life, and was sucked in from the tee shot to the end. She stayed, and it was awesome, man. I was addicted. I was all over the place.
I just want to highlight too the amount of people that are getting into golf because of the quote unquote hot golf guy on the PGA Tour scene. I don't care. But if that's what gets people into golf, then like Bryson, Rory, Ludwig, Hovland, they can all run golf for that matter. They can be the poster childs. Dude, the amount of girls that message me in the last couple of days where they've been like, oh my God, I didn't know there were such a thing as like hot golfers like this. And they're like sending me photos of Ludwig and Victor Hovland. I'm like, if that's what it takes to grow the game of golf, then like we need to get them into more coverage. Like we need to show their faces more. And they did a pretty good job of that considering Rory and Bryson were the big leads going into yesterday, basically. All right, outside of that, are we going to go through DraftKings, FanDuel bets, and everything else, or do you want me to go over some of my notes from the week? Huh?
I would love to transition off that.
All right. I'm going to start with some of my notes. Obviously, winner, Rory McIlroy, won the Grand Slam. Is he 6th guy to ever get a Grand Slam?
6th guy after 11 tries.
There we go. And by the way, I started last week with the overview of the Masters, basically saying based on 26 metrics that either Rory or Bryson would win. The start of the day Saturday, that looked like a really good stat line for me. It still ended up being, but that would have been hilarious. Notable guys to miss the cut: Thomas Dietrich, Will Zalatoris, Christian Bezuidenhout, Nikolai Højgaard, Phil Mickelson, Cam Smith, Seb Straka, Adam Scott, Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, Sergio, Keegan Bradley, and Dustin Johnson, just to name a few. There were more, but those were like the big ones I noticed right away. Some of the best low-priced options that Jack and I were all over. Denny McCarthy, who finished T29, who you'd be pretty stoked on based on how cheap he was. Patrick Reed, who ended up finishing 3rd. And then Jack specifically, but I'd say both of us were over Corey Connors, who finished T8. Misses, I thought Robert McIntyre would play better this week. He missed a cut. I thought Ludwig Gobert would struggle a little more this week. He finished like top 5. And then I thought Spieth would struggle a bit. I didn't really like him or dislike him, but I think he finished right around T15-ish. Don't quote me. But overall, pretty good week, all things considered. How'd your DraftKings do last week, Jack?
I won money everywhere. It was a green week, which if there's any week that your boy is going to pocket some green, I know that place better than I know my own apartment, which I've lived in a year for. Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, Corey Connors, Patrick Reed, Denny McCarthy, and basically the exact same on FanDuel outside of Cantlay for Neiman. Really didn't change too much, all things considered. It was awesome. I was disgustingly on Reed. I caught a lot of crap for that a number of places. I was disgustingly on him, disgustingly on Connors. I was all over those two, and those guys pocketed me a lot of money.
Yeah, I was the same way on DraftKings. I had Rahm T14, Bryson T5, Robert McIntyre cut, but Corey Connors T8, Patrick Reed 3rd, Denny T29. I won money everywhere on DraftKings, even though I think Jack beat me by like 20 points, but him and I both still won so much money on all of that. FanDuel was even better. A lot of the same guys. I had Colin, who finished T14, Rahm finished T14, Bryson T5, Patrick Reed T3. I took Poston, he finished like T42. And then Denny T29. Regardless, I still won good money on that. On to bets, Jack. Don't go through all 20. If you want, I can just post them all. But are there any big highlights? Because I'll screenshot it and just post all the green you made, like right here on the middle of our screen.
just to really summarize it, make it really quick, just because no one really cares outside of this. I had 18 bets and went 14-4. Misses were Brooks Koepka, top 30, Patrick Cantlay, top 30, who he just fell apart, Cam Smith, top 40, that was terrible, and Brian Campbell to miss the cut. Outside of that, awesome bets, couple plus monies in there, some ones I was really high on, even though I took a lot of crap. Like my favorite bet, no offense, Nick Dunlap missed the cut. I said I would stake my life that he would miss the cut, and he shot 90 on the first day. I was very happy with that. But up 7.5 units on the week, just off bets alone. Now wait till wild cards and we'll really start cooking, but it's great.
I just want to say, shout out Nick Dunlap for coming back after shooting 90 and shooting 71 the second day. That was it, honestly, because he could have withdrawn and like nobody would have questioned like, I pulled a muscle or something like that. Everybody would have been like, yeah, like he didn't, but like whatever. No, he came out and played the second day. I respect it. Jack had a really good week on bets. I had a bleh week on bets. I had 2 wins, 3 losses, and a draw or no dice. Losses were Ludwig Gobert to finish 18th or worse. I felt really good about that. I had Bryson DeChambeau over Ludwig Gobert, which sucked because pretty sure Bryson was beating him for all of 66 holes. I had Cam Smith over Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland played great this week. Cam Smith missed the cut. But then my wins were Joaquin Neiman over Nico Echevarria, Johnny Vegas, and Angel Cabrera, and then Corey Connors over Taylor Pendrith, Nick Taylor, and Mike Weir. So 2 wins, 3 losses for down 1.36 units on the week. And I'm only up 15.9 units on the year. So not my best week, but it's Masters week. And in all honesty, DraftKings and FanDuel, with my wins there, at worst evens out based on how I did on all that. So it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, I don't know if I said it, I'm blacking out today. Up 7.5 units off the 14 bets, up like just a hair under 12 units on the year. So
there we go. We're getting into the swing of things now. We're almost 27 units as a team, 28 units as a team. So we're doing pretty good. All right, on to let's get your wild cards out of the way because you got a half dozen of them.
I had 4 of 9 hit, which was freaking awesome. I had Patrick Reed top 20 and a top 10 ladder. So I had top 20 at plus 210 and top 10 at plus 550. I told you I was disgustingly on him this week. That smacked. I had Corey Connors top 20 and top 10 ladder as well at plus 190 and plus 500. I was stoked about that. And then I also had a little bit on Robbie Mack and Colin Morikawa top 5, which after about 54 holes, I was like, oh, great, another one. But all things considered, smacking that and combined with my real bets, we're up 28.94 units on the week if you tail everything.
There you go. For my wild cards, I looked initially last week. I mentioned I thought about doing Eric Keegan Bradley, but Jack had him in the wild card. That would have missed. So I was like, well, let me try Russell Henley top 10 at plus 350, just because, he's a good ball striker. He missed the cut. That never stood a chance. So I now have 9 wins and 14 losses on wild cards. It's going to happen. So how'd your winners do this week?
My winners were frickin' spot. If you want to listen, I will toot my own horn very rarely. I'm going to toot my own horn. There's one tournament. I mean, like, if you never listen to another podcast of us, well, please do. Come back next year because Rory McIlroy, Patrick Reed, Corey Connors, Jordan Spieth, Tyrrell Hatton, and Colin Morikawa. I think my worst winner was
15th?
15th or 14th, excuse me.
T14, yeah, there's a big group.
6 guys and the worst guy was 14th.
That's pretty good. In all honesty, too, yours was really good. It makes mine look awful. Mine wasn't that bad this week. My pre-year winners, I had Xander, who finished T8th. I had Brooks, who missed the cut, but he's my only bad one. I had Sung Jae, who nobody was picking this week, who finished T5. I had Bryson, who was in the lead at one point on Sunday, who finished T5. Joaquin Neiman, who finished T29. And then Shane Lowry had to shoot an 82 on Sunday to finish T49. But beyond that, I mean, again, 3 guys in the top 8, 2 other decent finishes, and then Koepka could have been worse. So good little week from us. Unfortunately, though, Jack, That is the Masters. We do have to wait another 360-ish days until it is back into form. I know. Don't be too sad. Don't shed another tear on us already. All right.
I know it's terrible. Tiger Woods 2026. Mark it in.
I'll make sure to put it in the podcast already. Jack's got a winner's pick for Tiger. So, all right, onward and downward to the RBC Heritage at Harborside on Hilton Head Island. This course is a par 71, totaling 7,215 yards. Harbortown is really kind of a positional golf course. There are going to be trees hanging over the fairways, so it's about really making it to the right spot more than anything else. Greens here are also tiny. They're the second smallest greens on tour outside of Pebble Beach. You'll notice when guys play this week, 90 to 95% of them are all going to hit from within the same spot of about 20 to 30 yards outside of the ninth hole, which is an arguably drivable par 4. But almost all of the rest of the holes, there's going to be like a really consolidated landing area where almost all the golfers will play for. Approach play is obviously super important here with it being positional. There's only 5 courses on the PGA Tour where approach are more important, or where approach is more important than here at Harborside. So overall, it's a really interesting golf course. Again, it's just all about accuracy and the ability to hit good approach shots into small greens. Driving distance is not very important here. You will see less than driver by a good amount of golfers on a good amount of holes. They just don't really need it at this point, so it doesn't make sense and they won't use it. So any other thoughts, Check, or into the pricing?
I would just say coming down the stretch, long iron usage is also going to be a key if you're making your lineups, because in a lot of spots that they don't hit driver, like I always think of 18, usually they're hitting a long iron into that green unless you're just disgusting and just hit a nuke and you perfectly place it and get lucky. You're hitting a long iron on a lot of these greens at the tail end.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right, on to DraftKings. That's where we're going to use our data. Top 6 guys are all over 10,000. So let's group them all together. Scotty Scheffler at 13,100 down to Patrick Cantlay at 10,000. What are you thinking this week, Jack?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a Patrick Cantlay week. Patrick Cantlay is unable to close. But once again, he had a very good, not great, perfect, like good stretch for 4 days of golf at Augusta National, which is a hard course in general. But now he's going to an event where he's had 6 top 10s in his last 7 starts here, and really 5 of those 6 are top 3s. This guy's a monster over here. He has 1 missed cut in 2021. That's disgusting behavior, disgusting. And you're talking about a guy that has, again, all across the board been very consistent, like 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th place across the entire year. I'm not trying to take away from Scotty Scheffler at 13,100. But if you're giving me a guy with like that course history at $3,100, this is just DFS. If you want to bet Scotty for a winner, I get it. But DFS wise, $3,100 for 5 guys. That's $600 and some change for your next 5 guys. That's ridiculous. 10,200, Justin Thomas, who also has played well here. Over the stretch, 5, 25, 35, and 8 in his last 4 stretches. You have Xander Schauffele, who's as consistent as you can come, and he put together 4 good rounds, which is good to see. Colin Morikawa, ball striker's paradise, still under 11,000. If you go Scotty Scheffler, man, you're stretching, if you ask me, because you can genuinely get 2 guys in the 10K right away and really bolster your lineup.
Yeah, you highlighted some of the guys and some of the things I was going to discuss. Scotty Scheffler, it's not really worth discussing until something changes. Here's your general rule with him. If you can afford to pay up for him, I don't blame you going for him. But most of the time, there's probably somebody else in that top range that's equally worth going for, and that will most likely be who I'm going for until his price is a little bit closer to the rest of the field. I will highlight Xander. He's coming off a T8 at the Masters, and I think he's an interesting play this week. He lost strokes putting in 5 of his last 6 starts and has lost around the green in 3 of the 5. He plays decently here, but again, he's high risk, high reward option at 10,400. You mentioned JT. If he keeps the driver in the bag this week, he has a chance. He's lost strokes gained off the tee in 5 of his last 7 starts. Beyond that, he's been spectacular. Iron player, great. He's gained on approach in 12 straight starts, and he's gained with the putter in 5 of his last 6. If the caddy wants to maybe snap his driver on the first tee box so that way he can't hit it all week, he might win this golf tournament. Genuinely. That is how I feel about Justin Thomas. Just keep the driver in the bag. Let's just hit like a 4-iron or a 2-iron or whatever you want to hit off the tee, and you'll be fine, Justin. Please do that. But then you highlighted Cantlay. You said he played solid last week. He lost almost 8 strokes around the green and still finished top 15 last week. He played really good.
Look, I always say this is a very controversial take, but from someone that's as disgustingly involved in the Masters as I am, if you get it, you get it. I always say around the green play isn't as big of a metric retrospectively, because you take a look at a guy like Bryson who gained almost 2 shots around and he finished the 2 shots ahead. It's really hard to gauge.
Yeah. So again, I agree. And you highlighted some of the other stuff. This last 7 years, it's like T3, third, second, cut, T3, T7, T3. Like if he can't finish top 10 this week, then like he's not finishing top 10 any week based on how he normally plays. So I think if you're going to rely on him, this is probably the week to do it. If you bites the bullet and fails here, he'll probably sit on my bench for about, and I won't play him for the next like 12 starts, and I'll be fine with that. So I think we can agree it's probably some combination of JT, Cantlay, and Scheffler as the top 3 in this range. Maybe Colin.
Are you talking DFS pricing? You're talking just like in general?
I think DFS pricing.
DFS pricing, honestly, I'm going Cantlay, Schauffele, Thomas. But if you're asking me who I think is going to win, it's probably Scotty, Cantlay, and Morikawa.
Okay, I'm thinking based on DraftKings price, it's probably JT, Cantlay, and then maybe Scotty or Morikawa. I think Scotty probably, just based on safety. He's probably locked in to finish top 10 this week.
No, dude, he looked pissed. Like from start to finish the entire week. I didn't see a smile. I didn't see a fist bump. Most people don't read into that. I think something's going on, but
I don't know. I feel like we always say that we're like, it's going to change with Scotty, and then he like rattles off top 5s for the next 17 weeks in a row. And it's like, well, all right, maybe we were wrong.
It's hard to tie up that much money.
Well, again, that's why he's like 3rd or 4th on my list. I think he's very safe as an option. He's just expensive.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to miss the cut.
Well, no, I think he's finishing top 20 in his sleep.
That's the joke.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, let's get into the 9K range. We've got Corey Connors at 9,800 down to Victor Hovland at 9,000. What are your thoughts on this small range, like 7 guys?
Small but ball striker paradise range. I have said it for multiple weeks, and I know Liam has fought this.
I'll continue.
Jordan Spieth is back. I have said for weeks the eye test has not proved me wrong. Jordan Spieth is back. He played spectacular. If you really watched, and let me just preface, I took off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from work so I could sit down and watch 8 monitors and every single shot of the Masters. He played spectacular from start to finish. If you listen, people are like, oh, that shot on 13, whatever he did. Look at Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy made like 4 double bogeys and still won. Everyone at Augusta is going to mess up. The scoring on Sunday was over par across the board. He played spectacular for 4 straight rounds at a really hard golf course that was playing easier and harder on all different levels. It was a wild week. I am all over Jordan Spieth this week. His last 3 starts here have been 39, 2-1, and that 39 was the start of his wrist injury. This is a course that he's very familiar with. It plays to his strengths, which is all of get the ball in the fairway, hit a great iron shot, and convert as you can. This is traditionally a course that he's played well at, a course he's able to consider really targeting at. I am all over him and his price, all things considered, in a no-cut event where it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 11 in the world rankings. And then after Victor Hovland, it drops to like 39th. It's a good spot for Spieth. I don't know if he'll win. I would love for him to win. Heck, that'd be freaking awesome. But I'm all over him at 9,200. I also think an interesting play. I like Corey Connors. I've talked about him a lot. So Corey Connors good. I think Tommy Fleetwood could have a very sneaky week. I agree. There's reservation. But if you're looking at an event that's really just a ball striker's paradise, you're taking a look at a guy that's played a number of courses all over the world. Courses it dominated green play, approach play, API, Genesis, Players, Valspar. This guy is a stick with the irons. And when you're getting into the long irons, outside of a Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood ranks up there in those approaches from 175 plus. Putter play is a whole other conversation, which is why I know what you're alluding to. But I think in terms of like 9,400, it's a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more shaky on Fleetwood. You mentioned his putting. He's lost 11 strokes gained putting in his last 3 starts. You might sit there and be like, well, you can't really take too much account into the Masters week. He only lost 3 strokes putting last week. So, like, I'm not even saying that, like, that being the bad thing. I'm saying the last 3 starts, he's lost 11. I think he's probably going to finish well. He'll probably finish somewhere around like 20 to 30 this week. But I don't think that the putter is going to carry him like it has been. And my concern is that there's less win equity. And I think there's a lot of win equity in this range. You mentioned Corey Connors. He played great all 4 rounds of the Masters, had some opportunities to win/contend. He's had 5 straight starts where he's gained in all statistical strokes gained categories. During that sequence, he's had 4 top 10 finishes. He's also gained with the putter in 5 of his last 6 starts since he changed to that Ping prototype putter that he's got in the bag. Bear in mind, that's his best putting stretch of his entire career. So
yeah, the record. I could have spent 10 minutes on Corey Connors, but the last 6 weeks I've spent 10 minutes on Corey Connors, so I figured I'll
highlight him. Yeah, that's fine. He's getting his best putting stretch of his career. So I am very high on Corey Connors this week.
Here. He has in his last 4 starts 2 top 20s, and the one he did miss was 25th. So he's doing, or 21st, excuse me, on the 5th year. So he's played well here historically.
Yeah, exactly. I'll mention Russell Henley because he did miss the cut last week. He lost 5 strokes to the field on Thursday, gained 4 on Friday, missed the cut on the number. He's now well rested. Honestly, he didn't have an awful performance last week. And then he goes to a spot that he's very familiar with that fits his game well, all about ball striking, where he's got 3 top 20 finishes in 4 years. Do I think he's going to win? Probably not. But he's another guy I could easily see finishing top 20. I think him and Fleetwood, in my mind, go side by side. Now, again, Fleetwood's $300 cheaper, but like I think there's just as much upside in Henley as there is in Fleetwood.
Yeah, if you're going to do either of these guys win, do EW, so you get a couple of places, which if you don't know what that means, gamblers, it means for like if you bet him, let's say you bet Tommy Fleetwood EW to win, you get a smaller cut if he finishes first, but if he gets 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, etc., depending on the place you do, you'll get a percentage back as well. So if you're looking at a winner's pick, you can do that. I agree, though. Much like Tommy, it's not necessarily the ball striking that I'm concerned with Henley. It's conversion around the greens. And as you know, there's razor-thin margins for around the green play here in terms of your approach. So the reason I say the putter for Tommy and Henley alike isn't as high as I would rank it is because a lot of times around this track, you're missing the green and you're chipping it to a makeable putt, which is where the strokes gain measurement really kills or is heightened for a lot of these golfers. So I like Russell Henley a lot. I like Tommy Fleetwood a lot. It's more about conversion than anything else.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going to say it. I think Connors is the cream of the crop in this range. So he's probably my number 1 guy. Beyond that,
like $1,000 last week. You think I'm not high on Corey Connors?
No, I know. Beyond that, I don't care who else you take in here, but I'm sticking with Connors the whole way. All right. Any other thoughts or down to the AKs?
I think Shane Lowry is going to be a very highly owned pick, and I don't think it's smart, even though he has a good track record here. If you really watch his game, he's more of a penetrating ball flight. A lot of draw-by shots, holding off into wind, a lot of European style shots, which works on a lot of tracks. If his irons are off by an iota, you're going to see a lot of par saves versus birdie attempts. And I think that can come bite him in a non-cut style event. But I think he'll be fine, but just not equitable.
I know this is, sorry, we didn't even state this. This is an elevated event, but there's still a cut technically, right? Aren't we? Isn't there always a cut on? I thought it was like top 60 or top 50 in ties or whatever.
I swear I thought there was no cut on this one.
Maybe RBC Heritage. I'm gonna look into it, but I'm gonna have you start off going to the 8K range. We Seb Straka at 8,800 down to Justin Rose at 8,000. Another small range.
Yeah,
So.
this is an interesting one for me because you have the former player of the year for 6 weeks, Seb Straka. You have Sung J M, who managed to put together 4 really good rounds for the first time in a couple of weeks, which is really good for him. This is a very scattered category, and I've seen a lot of Daniel Berger targets this week. I don't see it. I get why people are doing it. For me, he's had a very good stretch of playing very solid golf where he's not making 20 under. But some of these events that I think can get scary, I am staying away from him. This range for me is very stay away from me. And the reason I say that is it's very fluky. It's a lot of, if you really watch it, much what I just said about Shane Lowry, a lot of penetrating ball flight, a lot of aggressive shot shaping, a lot of hit and stop. Wyndham Clark is a really good example. Crazy ball striker when he's on. Too penetrating, it's going to skip. I don't think he's going to hold a lot of greens. Min Woo Lee, just the same. Maverick McNeely is probably your best option here. He's solid all across the game. I've talked about him since he played at Stanford. He's just a really solid golfer. Now, he had a really good performance last week at the Masters. You might think 32nd isn't, the best performance in the world, but shooting 72, 73, 71, 73 in an event where a guy higher than him in the world ranking shot 90 is absolutely insane. It's just, he plays such solid golf, so I would not discount him. If you're in a lot of these casual events, I think Justin Rose is going to be highly owned because people see him like, oh, he's so motivated to win. That guy has had 74 pints of Guinness and is beating himself up on his private jet out to South Carolina right now. This is not an event I would say Rose is worth 8K, but I get it because they're trapping everybody, and if he does great. I mean, he deserves to win, but yeah. I just don't see it.
Yeah. I am looking, by the way, there will be no cut. All 72 players will play all 4 rounds this week. I didn't know. I know sometimes the elevated events, they don't do a cut, and sometimes they do, and I didn't think to even look into it any further. I kind of agree with you that this is a bit of a volatile range. I don't know if I love a bunch of guys here. I think the only guy that I would even probably consider in this range would be Daniel Berger, actually. Outside of losing 2.5 strokes off the tee at the Players, Daniel's gained across the board in all strokes gained statistics in 7 straight starts. So he's playing spectacularly right now. During that stretch, he's finished top 30 in all 7 of those starts. He's also had a good amount of success here. He's got all 5 of his starts being made cuts, and he's got 4 of them being top 33. He had a T72 here basically as a rookie in 2015. Which I don't take much merit into because that was now 10 years ago. So I think as far as value in this range, it's Berger. You can go to Straka, although he looked horrible last week at the Masters. Now, again, that's the Masters. And he will be good as far as ball striking, so I don't blame going to him. But I think Berger's similar, and he's $500 cheaper. I think he is the best and potentially the only option I'd want to go to in this range. Down to the 7K range we go. We have Denny McCarthy at 7,900 down to Sam Burns at 7,000. Oh, Will Zalatoris at 7,000 too.
Listen, all I'll say about Will Zalatoris, he played great last week. It is a very scary target. My only note on Will Zalatoris, and Liam, the second he saw it was giving me a lot of crap, was Will Zalatoris 90-1 bomb ? Which are his odds to win. Ball striker's paradise, my friend. But there's 2 guys that I'm actually really excited on. One is, again, shocker, freaking Denny McCarthy. I don't know why they continue to price him at 7,900. This guy obviously only has 1 top 10 on the year, but if you really open his finishes, he is up there in every single. His strength is obviously putting. If you really watch his game, it's built for putting. Everything else, he's solid. And what I mean by solid is he's not top 5 anywhere, but he's not bottom 5. He's just like 43rd, 34th, 47th, everywhere. He's such a solid guy. One guy that I actually really like, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on, is Akshay Patil. Akshay Bhatia had a lot of erroneous mistakes last week, and he still finished 42nd. Now, erroneous is crazy because it's the Masters, but if you're talking about a guy that is built around shot shaping, target golf, and capitalizing on a lot of birdies, Akshay Bhatia has the makings that 7,700 is bonkers for this guy. It is. When I saw that, it was mind blowing. Like, his only bad starts have been at API, where he missed the cut on the number, and Valero, which he obviously previously won. Outside of that, he's got 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts. 6 starts. I don't know why people are sleeping on him. He's a great driver of the golf ball, great ball striker. From last year to this year, his putting has just skyrocketed around the green play. You take a couple of shots away from this kid, and he's contending. 7,700 for a ball striker is mind blowing.
Well, you could say 7,900 for a ball striker too. It was Aaron Rai in this field. Could be a good spot for Rai. He had a solid T28 finish at Augusta. He actually had 3 good rounds outside of Saturday. Saturday kind of blew up in his face, and therefore he finished T28. Otherwise, he probably would have been top 10, maybe even. He now comes to basically the Harborside, where his approach play could probably carry him to whatever finish he's going to get to. His putter is always going to be a concern. That is the general concern with Aaron Rai. But with small greens, it means he won't have to do as much putting. He should, in theory, be able to survive that by just hitting very good approach shots. So I think at 7,900, he's a valid option. I do probably like Denny equally, if not more, because he's Denny McCarthy, and he's just been playing great for months. But another name in this region is Bud Cauley. He didn't play last week, so my guess is he's going to be overlooked. But his form has been borderline impeccable. He has 3 straight top 6 finishes, and he's gained in all statistical strokes gained categories not named around the green. I like him as a cheap option this week. I think that he's going to be very solid. Again, if he's losing every once in a while around the green, I think that's going to be a little different here at Harborside, especially with the small greens. Everybody's going to struggle a little bit more with them. So I think Bud Cauley is a good choice this week. Do you want to highlight Harris English? I feel like Harris English is an interesting option this week, but I don't have too much data on him.
I'm not much of a data, but the eye test for Harris English lately has been spectacular. Obviously gains a ton on off the tee. I don't know why I have him in my notes as 6,900. I couldn't find him. Thank God you said something.
Yep.
Win at the Farmers, missed the cut at AT&T. Actually, he didn't, so I take that back. Outside of that's been playing some really solid golf. T20 in his last 2 starts, 30th otherwise. He's been playing really good and really solid. Again, no cut event. You're going to get a guy that's crazy off the tee, good ball striker, etc. I think you're good.
Yeah, I think he's a solid option to go to if you want to stay in the low 7K range. I would avoid all the mess in this 7K 6,000 with big names. I mean, I see Finau, Hoagie, Zalatoris, Burns. Then we get to the 6Ks, which I'll start off and then we'll loop right into it if you have no other thoughts. But I mean, I see Fowler, Homa, and Jaeger even included in there. But 6,900, Lucas Glover to Matt Kuchar or Brian Campbell at 6,000. What are you thinking on this range?
That's my thought on this range.
Okay. That's fair.
This is a weird range. It's very scary. It's fluky. No, here's the thing. No cut event. Someone just has to play 4 rounds. There's going to be 2 guys in this range that finish in the top 20. That's just how, maybe top 30. That's just how it's going to go. I think a lot of people are going to see name value here. They're going to see a Ricky Fowler. They're going to see a Max Homa, who on a PGA Tour style event, excluding Nedbank, on events that had a cut, he has not made a cut since the Open Championship. Take a moment into that. That's ridiculous.
Until last week.
Yes. You have Billy Horschel, I think if I didn't say Adam Scott, Gary Woodland, Cam Young, who's a ball striker who 3-putt, 4-whacked his way out of there. I do like Bezadenhout, and Rio Hisasune may pop out. But Bezadenhout is a weird spot because he traditionally should dominate at an event like this. And over the last little bit, he's really struggled, missing the cut in 2 of his last 3. But at this event, his worst finish in his career is 30-30. He's played it 4 times, 28-19, 33 and 28. This is a really good buy low spot for me. If he can get 4 good rounds in, and I'm talking 4 good rounds where he's in the top 50, I'm very content. But I think he can honestly drop 2 or 3 under every single day, get to 8 or 10 under on the week, put himself at top 35 and call it a day, honestly.
No, that's fair. You mentioned some of the big names, and I'll talk about Homa. He had one of his best putting performances of his career last week at Augusta. I think it was like his 7th or 8th best performance. He gained almost 7 strokes with the putter. It's not likely that's going to happen again. I'm a little worried to get to him this week. I would be if I was you guys too. I understand if you want to, but there's so much volatility. I think with Homa right now, you just keep an eye on him. And you just see, is he going to play? Is he going to keep it on the planet? Is he going to make a cut? Which this week it doesn't matter because he's not making a cut regardless. Or he's going to make a cut regardless because there's none. But I wouldn't go towards him this week. I'd hold off. Then you get Ryan Gerard, who's 6,600. He did not play last week, but he's gained an approach in each of his last 10 starts. He's also gained with the putter in 9 of his last 10 starts. His weakness, around the green play. I looked over his comparisons of who else he compares to. This is what was described. He was described as. They said, think of the Walmart version of a Victor Hovland. Then meet Ryan Gerard. And I was like, Hovland might do good this week. I feel like he's pretty, he's got an interesting opportunity. But Ryan Gerard also has 7 top 40 finishes in his last 10 starts. And I think he's probably one of the best options in this range. I think that there's so many other guys that are going to be really volatile. I think Gerard could easily finish the top half of the leaderboard this week. I will mention, if you want to get Scotty Scheffler, who's like 13,000, and not have the worst lineup in the history, you're going to have to be dirt cheap. It's not pretty, but Brian Campbell does have those pop-off weeks. He's also from Hilton Head, which is where the tournament's being played. So again, if you want Scotty and you want some sort of reasoning to get a cheap guy, I think Brian Campbell is an interesting option. I wouldn't recommend it, but he's there.
I shredded him last week, and then he made the cut. So
well,
on the number, so I'm going to leave myself out of this one.
And again, I think it's the best option? No, but if you're down here at like 6K, you got a guy that shot 90 last week, a guy that in Matt Kuchar that is not consistent at all. Adam Hadwin felt like he probably shot about 90 last week, although I don't think he actually played. So might as well take a guy who was out entirely in Brian Campbell. So, all right, with that, let's get into DraftKings pricing. What are we looking at for your DraftKings, Jack?
I got Colin Morikawa 10-9. I have Cantlay at 10 flat. I have Denny McCarthy 7-9. Akshay Bhatia 7-7. Harris English 72, and Bezaden Hoot at 63.
There we go. For my DraftKings, I have Justin Thomas at 10-2. I have Patrick Cantlay at 10,000. Daniel Berger at 8,300. Bud Cauley at 7,500. Harris English at 7,200. And Ryan Gerard at 6,600.
Yeah, FanDuel, I may tweak it, but for right now, it's Xander Schauffele at 11,900. Justin Thomas 11,400. Patrick Cantlay 11,100. Danny McCarthy 9,600. Harris English 8,400. Bezaden Hoot 7,400.
Yeah, I went kind of crazy on FanDuel. Scotty Scheffler 14,000. Justin Thomas 11,400. Patrick Cantlay 11,100. Bud Cauley 8,700. Ryan Gerard 7,700. And then I did take Brian Campbell at 7,000 at the minimum. All right, on to bets. What are your bets looking like this week?
Yeah, I have 6 bets. They're all, the worst bet I have is minus 115. It is to start Spieth 24th or better is minus 120. I loved him last week. I thought the last couple of weeks, Liam, I know, has been pushing back on that, but hopefully after last week, the horizon is starting to open. The sun is starting to peek through. Not saying he's going to win this week, but 24th place, you can't be mad at 24th place. I love it. Patrick Cantlay top 20 is minus 160. Akshay Bhatia top 30 is minus 143. Denny McCarthy top 30 is minus 150. Christian Bezaden Hoot is top 40 at minus 170. I love that as a buy low spot. And Harris English top 30 at minus 115.
Sounds like fun. No, I'm still not invested in Jordan Spieth. He's just not consistent enough for me to want to get invested in that. Sorry, not sorry. For my bets, I have 5 of them. I have Patrick Cantlay top 10 at plus 162. I have Corey Connors top 20 at -120. I have Sung Jae Im over Benny On, Siwoo Kim, and Ryo Hitsasune at +150. I have Daniel Berger over Minwoo Lee at -120. And then I have Patrick Cantlay top 20 in round 1 at +110. Those are my 5. I feel pretty good about them. Again, the worst one being a -120 odds. On to wild cards. What's your wild card this week, Jack?
Yeah, I did not find a wild card that I liked. So basically, I just picked the 2 guys that I think have a good chance of winning this tournament and parlayed them both top 10. So it's Scotty Scheffler and Patrick Cantlay top 10 +373.
There we go. I said I'd keep tabs on him. His odds suck, but Max Homa top 20 is +225. So that will be it. If he manages to play like he did at Augusta, then that is a chance of hitting. Otherwise, it's a wild card for a reason. So we'll see. Winners, what you got?
I have Patrick Can't Close at 17-1. I think 17-1 in an event that he is dominated at, and outside of putting, looked great last week in terms of all measurements. 17-1 is a really good position. I mean, granted, Scotty Scheffler is going to take 60% of the money this week. And yeah, I think here's what I would say. I don't like betting winners. I bet just a fraction of a percentage on winners just because they're not really profitable. Yep. I would look at markets that's winner without Scotty Scheffler this week. So for me, Patrick Cantlay 17-1. I have Tommy Fleetwood Mac at 30-1, and I have Akshay Bhatia at 65-1, and then I have 10 cents just to say I did it on Will Zalatoris at 90-1.
If that one hits, fair play. In all honesty,
literally, I was like on DraftKings, I was like, what's the lowest amount I could bet? And I was like, a dime. Let's do it.
Throw 10 cents on Willie Z. Fair play. If he wins, shoot, you can take it as a winner's pick for all I care. My winners, I have Justin Thomas, who's also 17-1. I have Daniel Berger at 45-1, and then I have Bud Cauley at 75-1. So overall, it's going to be a good week. There's a lot of golf going on. I want to say there's an event in China that's going on this week. There is the Corrales, which I apologize. It was a hectic day for me. I have no data on Corrales. Jack, I'm assuming based on what I've heard about your day, you also don't have anything about Corrales as well.
Corrales is an awesome event, actually. I think it's a shame that they stack it up with RBC Heritage. You have guys like Keith Mitchell are in there. Ben Griffin was in there because he missed out in the first alternate and committed. Thorbjorn Olesen, a bunch of guys like that. All
right, I'm giving your winner's pick is Keith Mitchell. Mine's going to be Ben Griffin. Got it?
I love Keith Mitchell. Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, that's the plan. That's who you should go after, Keith Mitchell, and Ben Griffin. It's our recommendations for it. So, all right, with that is the RBC Heritage. Have a good week betting, and we will see you next week for the Zurich Classic. Deuces.